friends, welcome back to Night 5 and channel. I'm James, your book corner, and today we are in a book corner. I'm going to talk about some of my favorites and some of my least favorites I read in the last 3 months. As a little bit of a generic catch-up, some of these books will make appearances in later on videos, towards the end of the year videos and stuff, but there are 67 books that I truly haven't really been able to talk about on the channel for XYZ reasons. Some of them will get their own videos, and some of them you'll hear about over the course of the next few weeks. A lot of these are just going to go on the wayside because I read a lot of average 3 stars that I wouldn't really recommend. So I picked a few, or we're going to pick a few together. I'm going to go through the list. I have it all right here in my bullet journal, and we're going to talk about some of my favorite 5s. I don't want to talk about all the 5s because there's a good chance that multiple of them could pop up in my top 10 in the year or something, so I don't want to talk about all of them. But I do want to highlight some of my 5s, I want to highlight some of my really lows, and go from there. Essentially, let's go ahead and I'll just pick like 1 or 2 from every month and call it a day. So starting with August, I read several amazing books that were like 5 stars, and I also read some really bad books, and so we're going to talk about 2 of those. Both these will get more in-depth details of why I loved them or why I didn't like them in a separate video, because these are both for my 24 and 24, but I do have to mention both. I think it's just necessary. So my favorite from this month, Every Time on Vacation Someone Dies by Catherine Mack. Catherine Mack is a new author to me. This is a pseudonym. I think she writes under a different name as well, and this is the first of a brand new series. Catherine Mack is a mystery writer, I'd say more cozy than anything else, very tongue-in-cheek. The author here, the main character of the story, is a really well-known author, 10 books into a series, ending the series to start something new. And this first book, in the original first book, she fell in love, and the original story was really much about her and her partner. Her and her partner have since broken up, and the main love interest is really love, but it's based on that guy that she's no longer with. And so she has taken upon herself to kill off that guy in this final book to end this love story, but also end some other stuff that's going on behind the scenes that people don't really know about. And in the process, he has had multiple assassination attempts in real life, as well as he being assassinated in her book, in this mystery book that she's writing. It's very fun, very tongue-in-cheek, like I said. She talks to you as a reader. There's a lot of footnotes, there's a lot of scenes, there's like scenes of like, this is really important to keep in mind for later on, or here it comes, the big reveal, and she's like telling you, like, spokesperson, this thing is coming or whatever, and I just found everything to be delightful and lovely, and I couldn't speak highly more. I would highly recommend this book. I'm not going to say it's the best mystery thriller out there. I'm not going to say the reviews are the greatest or anything. I just really truly loved this main character so much. I had so much fun, and I enjoyed the reading process of this so deeply that it's automatically a 5. This is a book that I read, and I thought, as I was reading, I was like, is it a 5? I don't think it could be a 5. Why would I give it a 5? I was doing that thing that we all do where we read a book. Objectively, there's like certain elements of it that is probably not a 5, but to me it was a 5, and so I couldn't recommend more. And then we got to talk about Immortal Pleasures by V. Castro. Immortal Pleasures should never probably been on that list. I put it on this list because it's about vampires through the ages, through time. It follows a woman, and she was born with the Aztec. Whatever the Aztecs was, I'm not entirely sure. By the way, she was born there, she was born a slave, and she was used and abused and all these horrible things, and she is given, and maybe it's the 1900s that she is given the option to become a vampire, to surpass the plague, surpass everything that's going on, and live and be able to have this freedom. She decides to take the virus and become a vampire and live in the dark shadows, and it's telling the story of before and telling the story after. She is a collector of all things, and she is trying to bring back things from original countries that have been moved, would say, to like, I don't know, in a museum in London. She's trying to bring it back home. It's like what her job is. She ends up meeting a guy who becomes obsessed with her, and they end up falling into this infatuation, is the best way I know to describe it. There's a scene with butter, which I think butter should never be used the way butter is being used here. One of the most disturbing things, how a lower region is described. It's just god awful. The writing here is god awful. The characters are not very great. There is no chemistry. There's no nothing. There's nothing to grab onto. There's no substance. And the story was just bland and very hard to read because it felt like a first draft that I wanted to give critique notes to, but I couldn't because it was published. Like, I'm just shocked it was published. I'm so shocked. And that's really mean and really hurtful. This book wasn't for me, and it seems like it wasn't really for a lot of people. I gave it a 1.5, which is really low. I rated a lot of books a 2 this month, a lot of books a 3, but a 1.5 definitely takes the cake. moving on to September. September, I read a lot of things, and so picking one item from each month or whatever is a bit hard, but I do have to go with a true 5, in my opinion, and that is Kiss Her Once for Me by Alison Crocken. Now, I have read several Alison Crockens this year. Alison Crocken is now officially, I can declare, a favorite author. I absolutely love their work. They wrote The Charm Offensive, and I fucking adored that novel. I gave it a 5 stars. Great anxiety wrap. And then I also read their other one next month, we're not going to talk about, so I'll just mention it here, which is Here We Go Again, which has really good mental health rep in it as well, and a very beautiful gay story outside of the main love interests and stuff, and I highly recommend that one as well. I gave that one a 5. But Kiss Her Once for Me is special, and the reason I'm bringing it up in this video is because I think it's a perfect winter read. It's a perfect Christmas read. It's a perfect Christmas time around read. It made me bake cookies. It was so lovely, so wonderful, so cherishable. I felt like I was getting a warm hug from it the entire time. The side characters are beautiful. Let me tell you a little bit about the plot. It's about these two women. They end up meeting for a Christmas. Then the next morning, after their one night fling, the woman, the main character, she has to be like really attached to you, to like do any type of flirting, to have any type of connection to you. She has to like really know you, and this is a 24-hour fling, and she does everything. And so this girl means a lot to her. In 24 hours, she basically found her soulmate in 24 hours at a bookstore while she was crying. It's a whole thing on Christmas. And so they ended up spending Christmas Eve together, or Christmas, it's one or the other, together. And then a year later, after they did not end up working out, she ends up getting fake engaged to her boss for an inheritance thing, and her boss is the brother of the woman she fell in love with a year prior. It's very complicated, very messy, but it's a fucking great time. Could not recommend more. Now, for the one that's on like the lower end of the spectrum for this month, very interesting, because I have a lot to talk about. We got a lot of choices. However, I'm going to have to go with Cons in the Cornfield 3, The Church of Friendo. I have a lot of 3s. I even have lower books than this on this list. For numbers, I gave this a 3.25, for instance. I have some 2.5s on here. I have some 2s on here. Like, there's lower things to choose from. That's not the point of this. I just really want to talk about this book in particular and how much of a disappointment this was. So, as you guys know, I've been promoting Cons in the Cornfield for a very long time now. We're going on 2 years with this page. I mean, I love this book. Cons in the Cornfield 2, when I read it initially, I didn't really care for it. And on this reread, I really did like it. I'd already said a little bit about my piece with this. The last video I did, I also talked about Church of Friendo. Church of Friendo is the 3rd book in the Cons in the Cornfield series. I say series because I do feel like that it does set up a 4th one, and if it just does well enough, I could see Adam writing a 4th one. I don't necessarily know if I would read it. Maybe I will. I don't know. Cons in the Cornfield, the 1st one, follows Quinn Mayberry as she goes off to Kettle Springs, and then a massacre happens in the 4 days that she is living there. Essentially, there's a clown, he's the mascot, and he ends up killing some teens. It's a very big massacre, and some stuff happens, and so forth. Cons in the Cornfield 2 follows almost directly afterwards. I think we only skipped a few months in between in that book. And then Cons in the Cornfield 3 is the biggest time jump. I think it's like a year or so after the events of the 2nd book. Cons in the Cornfield 3 does a lot of things that I didn't like. The 2nd book is jumping around from a lot of POVs that we already know, and some new ones that we end up caring about by the end. And almost all those characters are non-existent from the 3rd book. There's one character that is consistent throughout all of them. I won't mention who, because this is a slasher series, so I don't want to spoil any characters who survive or who you think could die who are in those perilous situations. But this one follows a character as they're going on a revenge hunt, kinda. And then also it follows a town in like Missouri or something like that who are worshipping Friendo as if he is God, and what that looks like. And it's very brutal, very uncomfortable. There's a lot of scenes that made me very like ew inside. Lots and lots of gore, and a very anticlimactic ending and a setup for something else. It's like a passing along a torch in a very weird way, in my opinion. I was very disappointed with this book. I have a hard time recommending this book. I personally don't think you need to read the rest of them. You can read the 1st book. If you want to read the 2nd one, I get it. If you want to read the 3rd one, I get it as well. The epilogues are good. They're enticing enough to pick up the sequel. I think the 1st one outside of the epilogue is good on its own, and even the first 2 outside of the epilogue also good on their own as well. You want to know what happens to this character, but I just don't know if it's worth the 400 pages that it takes to learn the information. Then let's talk about October, I didn't really read a lot in October. October and November, my reading has just kind of fallen off. I'm not particularly mad about this decision in my brain, just for the simple fact that I've hit 200 and something books. But with that being said, I'm sure that I can talk about one that I really liked and then one I didn't really care for. Let's go ahead and talk about Over the Influence by JoJo. This is a memoir, so I'm just going to briefly talk about it. It's her life. She's a singer. She had a few famous songs that came out when she was 12. Actually, really famous. And then she's slowly trying to build her career back up to where it was. She was an actress. She was an aquamarine. And it's just talking about her life, talking about her story, how the thing that she signed when she was 12, she had no idea. She was so excited. She signed away her voice for 10 years or for 6 records or something along those lines. And then they kept pushing off these records. And so she kept being in this lull period and things. And it's very beautifully written, very well done. I just absolutely adored my time once again while reading it. I just don't have a lot to say on it because it's a memoir, but I do give it a 5, and I would really recommend it. It was definitely one of my 2 favorite reads from this month. That being said, that's this video. Once again, wanted to move on from this period of being offline is really what the answer is, and the only way I could truly think about doing that is by sitting down to film this video for you guys today. I think I just need a period of time talking about some of the books that I read while I was off the internet, unintentionally off the internet. A lot of changes have happened in the span that I've been gone. I got promoted at work. We have 2 beautiful kittens, which you'll see in the vlogs coming forward. I'm not gonna promise them, so I'm not gonna tell them, but when I do start back up filming my life and stuff, you'll see them there. Any vlogs that come out over the next 2 weeks or so, you probably won't see them in, because they're all, I filmed quite a bit in these 3 months that I was off. I just haven't been around to be able to edit them or post them for XYZ reasons. Mostly, I've just been really busy with work and writing. Let me know if this worked for you, or if you think, no, you would much prefer a 67 book wrap up. Let me know in the comments down below. I am sorry that there are so many books I didn't get to cover, but if it means anything, the majority of them were 3s, so I didn't really have, there's more in between talking about things. That being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next time, and goodbye.